Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. The NBA is full of rags to riches stories. Bison Dele is one of those stories. Bison was born Brian Carson Williams in 1969, and he endured a difficult childhood in a Los Angeles suburb. Brian's older brother, Kevin, was his one constant. Brian had a natural basketball talent from a very young age. Kevin suffered from asthma, and he never took to the basketball like Brian did. Brian wouldn't actually join a basketball team until he was in the 10th grade. Immediately, he became a standout player. Brian went on to play some college ball and finally joined the NBA in 1991 as a first-round draft pick. He won a championship in 1997 with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, but he was never as passionate about the game as his teammates were. He dreamed of just quitting the NBA and traveling the world. And he shocked everyone when he did just that in 1999, walking away from a $36 million contract. Brian would travel to Australia, Beirut, New Zealand, and traveled throughout the Mediterranean. In 2000, he bought a catamaran. He named it Hakuna Matata. In 2002, both his girlfriend Serena and his brother Kevin would join him to sail the South Pacific. Shortly after setting off, however, Brian, who now went by Bison, and Serena vanished. Kevin, who now went by Miles, showed back up in the States using Bison's checkbook and passport. Where is Bison Dele? Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Where Are They podcast and another unsolved missing person story. This is the second story of a missing basketball player, and it's a wild one. Bison's story has all the makings of a Hollywood movie. Bison, or Brian's, story is quite a tale, so let's get right into it. Brian Carson Williams was born on April 6, 1969, to mother Patricia and father Eugene. He had an older brother, Kevin, who was 3 years old when Brian was born. Brian had a natural talent at a very young age for basketball, but his childhood was a bit unstable. His father, Eugene, had left in 1970 to go travel and perform with the Platters, a popular vocal group at the time. Eugene was a very talented singer. Patricia and Eugene would end up divorcing in 1970, and Patricia remarried and would settle in Fresno, California. Her new husband was abusive to both her and her boys, and eventually they split up as well. However, by then, Brian was now in middle school and he had suffered greatly. Likely because of his tumultuous childhood, Brian didn't actually play basketball for a team until he was in the 10th grade. By his junior year, Brian was now attending Las Vegas High School. His senior year, he transferred to St. Monica Catholic School in Santa Monica, California. Brian went on to play college basketball at the University of Maryland and then the University of Arizona before he joined the NBA. In 1991, Brian was picked up by the Orlando Magic in the first-round draft pick. Brian moved a couple of years later to the Denver Nuggets, then to the LA Clippers, before landing with the Chicago Bulls, playing alongside Michael Jordan. In 1997, Brian won a championship with those Chicago Bulls. During this time, however, Brian was silently suffering. He wasn't as passionate about basketball as his teammates, as all the other players. Sure, he was making a lot of money, and the more he made, the more his family called him asking for more money, but Brian just wasn't happy. He was not only sending money to his parents, but he was pretty much supporting his brother Kevin as well. And he was miserable. He didn't care about the money. He didn't even care that much about basketball. What he really wanted was freedom. He wanted to do his own thing. He wanted to travel the world. He wanted to have new experiences. He also distanced himself from the family at this time. He had had a wake up call with his father when he bought his dad a Harley and he traveled to Las Vegas to give it to him. He was so happy and he was so proud to do this for his dad. But his father, who now had struggles with alcohol and drugs, looked at his son and said that he would have just rather had the cash. Brian was devastated and heartbroken and decided to distance himself as much as possible from his family. In 1998, Brian legally changed his name to Bison Dele. This was said to honor his Native American heritage, with the name Bison meaning freedom. Bison had also enjoyed some fun times outside of basketball. He briefly even dated Madonna. He biked with a friend from Salt Lake City down to Phoenix without any camping gear. They simply slept out under the stars as they went. Bison got his pilot license and he continued to dream of a life away from basketball. He made that dream a reality in 1999 when he quit basketball, shocking everyone and walking away from a $36 million contract. Bison started to travel, going to Beirut, Australia, the Mediterranean, and New Zealand. Bison had purchased a catamaran sailboat named Hakuna Matata, and he had plans to see every corner of the globe. After 9/11 happened, Bison immediately began to reach out to his on-again, off-again girlfriend, Serena. She was living in New York City, and Bison was worried about her. Serena was fine, and Bison was able to talk her into coming sailing with him for 2 weeks. Serena and Bison had a wonderful time together. But Serena had to get back to her life in New York City. When she arrived back in the city, she received a letter from Bison and a check for $50,000, telling her to pay all of her bills, handle her responsibilities, and leave the city to sail the world with him. Serena was reluctant at first, but her and Bison had a special bond, and they always came back to each other. In early 2002, Serena decided to go. Bison's brother Kevin, who had also changed his name and now went by Miles, would also join them for a bit on this trip. They all met up in New Zealand where they planned to set sail from. Now, Serena wasn't particularly fond of Kevin, and Bison hadn't really spoken to his family in 3 years, so it isn't clear how this situation of the three of them sailing together came to be. But that's what was happening in the summer of 2002. On July 6, 2002, Bison, Miles, Serena, along with their captain, Bertrand Saldo, left Tahiti heading towards Raiatea. They would visit the beautiful island of Raiatea for a bit, and then they would head off towards Hawaii. For the first 2 days, Serena and Bison did make a few satellite calls back to friends and family. Then all contact abruptly stopped. Serena's family back home became very worried. On July 20th, the boat made it back to Tahiti, but details of who was on board aren't clear. It seemed to be just Miles, but it's not certain if he had to offer any explanation as to where Bison, Serena, and the boat captain were. By September, authorities were fully investigating the disappearance of Bison and Serena. On September 5th, a man with Bison's passport and checkbook tried to purchase gold coins for $150,000. The bank immediately notified Bison's business manager, and he contacted police, who went to this Phoenix location and arrested Miles Dabord. Miles first said that his brother was fine, and in fact, his brother had been the one to ask him to purchase these coins. Since Phoenix Police Department couldn't locate Bison to confirm or deny his story, Miles had to be let go. Just before the attempted gold coin purchase, the Hakuna Matata, which had been registered in Tahiti now under another name, was found off the coast of Tahiti with the nameplate removed and some possible bullet holes that had been repaired and patched. About the same time, Miles phoned his mother, Patricia, telling her that he would never hurt Bison and that he would not survive in prison if authorities believed that he had. Both the FBI and the French authorities became involved in the investigation. They learned that Miles had bought about $200 worth of weights just before the group set sail on July 6th. He was now suspected of murdering Bison, Serena, and Bertrand, the boat's captain, and using the weights to attach to the bodies and then throwing them overboard. This was evidence that Miles likely had premeditated the entire thing. Miles continued to adamantly deny having anything to do with Bison, Serena, and Bertrand's disappearances or murders, but I couldn't find anywhere to confirm what Miles's story actually was. What did he say happened to them? He had been seen leaving the island of Tahiti with them. How did he explain coming back without them? A warrant was issued for his arrest. On September 27th, however, just weeks later, Miles overdosed on insulin and he slipped into a coma. He died shortly after. The brothers had had a rough relationship. Was Miles jealous of everything that Bison had? Had Miles planned to murder his brother? But then what? Did he hope to just walk away with Bison's fortune? A lot of unanswered questions and a lot of tragedy. Bison was just 33 years old when he vanished in 2002, and he would today be 54. He is described as a black male with green eyes, standing 6'10" tall. He is presumed to have drowned in the Pacific Ocean alongside his girlfriend Serena and the boat's captain, Bertrand. One of Bison's favorite quotes was, quote, "I always figured there were two ways to go. You can die from living or you can just die from dying." End quote. Bison had retired from the NBA abruptly, much to everyone's shock. He was in the prime of his career and he was only 30 years old. But by doing so, he had 3 years of traveling the world and doing all the things that he had dreamed of doing. He went from country to country and he made friends with all of the locals. Bison was humble and many didn't even know that he had been a rich and famous NBA player. He wanted to blend in and enjoy the different lifestyles and cultures that the world had to offer. 3 years wasn't nearly long enough, but I have to say I'm grateful he had those 3 years and was able to experience that. Miles and Bison's mother, Patricia, has only said that she is the mother to both of her boys and she loves and misses them so much. Such a terrible and tragic story. I'm curious to know what you think of Bison's story. Any takeaways? Have you heard of Bison's story before? Once again, thank you so much for being a supporter of our show and our mission, which is to keep sharing as many stories as we can. Thank you for listening to Bison's story today. We will be back again very soon with another unsolved missing persons case. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.